Jay Zimmer from Gardner-Webb University in North Carolina. Welcome to the Anatomy and Clay Learning System podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate you inviting me here.
Absolutely. Could you just, why don't we start with a little bit about the school, and then we'll do a brief background on you before we get into this amazing array of visual aids you brought with you today. Um, can you tell us about Gardner-Webb, where you're located, and what the school is all about?
Absolutely. We're about a medium-sized university, about an hour west of Charlotte, in a small town of Bowling Springs. And we have baccalaureate degrees, we have master's programs, and a couple doctoral programs. It's a Christian school. And so I've been working there about 14 years as a biology professor.
Ah, how big a school is it? How many students roughly would you say?
Um, on campus, maybe about 1,300 or so. Mhm.
Okay,
Kind of
somewhat
way through the
small,
airport. Yeah, on the
smaller
spectrum,
school.
probably more so, yeah.
Yep, yep, very good. And how did you said you've been there how long again? I'm sorry.
14 years.
Okay. What's your background? Where were you trained? Did you teach elsewhere before Gardner-Webb?
Yeah. So I worked at a Christian school, a Lakewood Park Christian School in Auburn, Indiana, and it was pretty much the whole science department. And then
Yeah.
went to grad school at Purdue, and then I taught for a little while, 7 years at South Florida Community College, now South Florida State College, and taught anatomy and physiology there and marine biology. And and then, just with anatomy and physiology, I'm always trying to find new ways to engage students. So mhm.
Is your interest in biology and anatomy, can you trace it back to any one particular moment or spark that led you down this path?
Yeah. I think in high school, some of my favorite teachers were the science teachers and biology and ecology. So I knew I wanted to do something in that field. And didn't know if I wanted to go more ecology, animal, or more human, and decided to go down the human path and just found medicine and the human body pretty fascinating. So that's kind of where my interests led, and they took me to where I'm teaching primarily. Mhm.
Sounds like no regrets on your end at all.
No, no. So
Yeah.
a lot of people want to get into medicine and studying the human body. It's arguably the most complex thing in the universe. So it's a neat thing. It's just always amazing to study it.
Um, so what kind of classes do you teach? Can you give us a flavor for the kind of courses that you oversee?
Yeah, I teach human anatomy and physiology 1 and human anatomy physiology 2. Those are primarily majors courses. Students are trying to go pre-vet or pre-med or PA school or nursing. And then I also teach a human biology, which is a non-majors class, 1 semester course. And that's pretty fun. Get a lot of music majors and business majors, and trying to get them interested in their body is always very rewarding. And then I also pick up a animal physiology class and teach a little bit with the animal aspects of things too.
Yeah, it's great. What overall student reaction to your class? Are they interested and engaged? They know they need
Yeah,
this? Yeah.
I hope they're engaged. So yeah, I
Yeah.
try to find things to get their attentions during the lecture, and just trying to get a variety of things and just try to pull out what resonates with me, what I find is interesting, and it usually resonates with the students too. And trying to do things that are trying to break down the complex physiology and the anatomy, and just trying to, explain it in ways that are clear, trying to pick activities that just bring it home for the students and make it memorable.
Yeah. So when did you run across anatomy and clay? How long have you been using it?
Okay.
What exposed you to it?
Yeah. I went to Human Anatomy and Physiology Society conferences and bumped into it there. and it looked a little intimidating at first, and all the materials, and it just looked a little challenging. And then that was when I was working in Florida, and then when I moved to North Carolina, I just got an email from Anatomy and Clay, and there was a workshop 15 minutes away, and just couldn't pass it up. So I did a weekend training workshop, professional development, and I was hooked from then on. And I have my little half skeleton with everything I built over the weekend, and still have it displayed, even though that was about 12 years ago, up in the corner, up on a shelf in my lab. And I've been able to purchase similar models, and then just kind of make up some activities also that I think would be helpful for the students. And this students seem to enjoy that, being able to work with the clay, and just stays with them a lot more than just a PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. Well, what was about the professional development that you found eye-opening or inspiring?
Oh, I really liked, I mean, in models, when, there's a lot of models, you'll teach an anatomy class, and it's just everything's there, and it has a number on. And sometimes you just kind of memorize the number for a muscle, for instance. But here you had to build a muscle, and you had to pay attention to how the muscles are layered, and you had to pay attention to how they're connected and kind of three-dimensionally in space. How they reach across maybe an open area, and how they connect. So it just gave me a much more holistic feel for the body that I really want to pass along to my students also.
Yeah, great. So walk us through a few of the ways you incorporated into your instructional flow, if you don't mind.
Okay. So I've done it. I don't have the skeleton with me now, but probably one of the more popular things is just to build muscles on the skeletons. There's a lot of different ones that we use, and let me see if I can find some here. And so those are always useful and helpful. Here's one I've done in a workshop, and I may incorporate into one of my classes. So here's a small one where I just have a um, portion of the upper extremity, and also the scapula there. And I know in a lot of fields, exercise science, or going into occupational therapy, physical therapy, they're interested in a lot of the kinesiology, the joint action. So here I started, partially built the rotator cuff, and I like using different color clay just so it kind of sticks in my mind a little better. So, you can work, I've worked with small models. And this one, I've pre-marked up some of the origins and insertions, some of the
Mhm.
attachment points for the muscles, which makes it very helpful. And so working off of the models is helpful and interesting. My anatomy and physiology 2 class, um, I decided I wanted to have an activity with the urinary system, and just to give a little more view of things. So here you can see a a a laminate here, and it was really fun. They got to build a diaphragm, see how the large blood vessels interact with the diaphragm, and then seeing how the arteries and veins relate to each other, how they're oriented with each other. And then you can kind of see the urinary system here, the bladder and such, and kidneys, and just how everything is three-dimensionally positioned. And you don't always catch that, definitely don't catch that in a diagram. And rarely do you get that sense in a model. And by building it, it forces the students to learn, what goes in front of what goes underneath what. And this is what their students are going to see if they go into if they go into surgery and they're working inside of the abdominal cavity. Another activity I did, we have plenty of hearts in our labs, and again, I wanted to have my students retain the information better. So I would give the students a sheet of paper with a list of labels, and they have like 20 some different structures they need to label. Then they cut out the labels. I give them pins, I give them clay, and I said, hey, in 2 weeks, build me a heart. I want like a lid where I open up the heart. And then the students come back. They bring their heart to class, and usually they bring it in some sort of a box, maybe a pizza box or a shoe box or something from the dollar store. And then everything's labeled up. And I don't tell them this, but then what I do before they turn it in is there's 4 students per table, and I ask them to do a little quality check. Everybody rotates and they study somebody else's heart, and then they point out to the person who made the heart if there's anything that looks questionable. And then they have a chance to make corrections before they turn it in. So that really helps the
Wow.
students
Yeah.
to be engaged and think about it at different levels and see different models. And that's been real successful. The students enjoy that, and they seem to learn those structures pretty well.
Yeah. How long do they get to build the heart?
Like that one, I usually give them like 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Give them a bag of clay, give them a tool, and
Hmm.
I'll give them a cutting mat or a mat for them to work off of, and bag of pins, and then they just bring it back complete. And I usually save a couple hearts that were done well, and I say, don't take a picture of it, but this is kind of what I'm looking for, and that
Yeah.
kind of sets the bar really high. I also do it
So,
with
so
mhm.
just real quick, you do let them take it home, it sounds like.
Nope. So
Oh, okay.
90% of
Okay.
them. Then I have my lab assistants. They just tear it down and recycle the clay for the next semester. But the good ones I
What
keep.
I no, I meant to work on it. They take it
Oh,
home in order to build it.
yes, they take it
Okay.
home to back to their dorms and they work on it there.
Gotcha. 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 Okay.
And then I tell them they can use their book, use the internet, whatever they want.
Right.
Uh, Done a similar thing with the urinary system. So I've here you can see a kidney. And once again, I gave them a sheet with all the labels. They cut out the labels. I give them some pins, and they make a cut open um, kidney, label everything. Then they also, for that project, have to do a nephron. So that was more the gross anatomy. Here we have the micro anatomy, so we can see the nephron and the loop of Henle, the descending, ascending uh, regions there, and the convoluted tubule, all these different structures. And once again, they bring it into class, give them a couple weeks to work on it, and they do a little quality check and get to see everybody else's. It's fun, and so I like kind of mixing that in to the classes. Something else I do in my class. This one's a little more simplistic, but I'll give the students a diagram of the skeleton, and then I'll give them blood vessels, and then I'll have them design the blood vessel network. And you can see here, this one's a little bit simplistic, but you can go much more detailed than this. And again, this forces the students to kind of holistically know how everything connects, what connects with what's upstream, what's downstream. And it allows the students to make those connections and the three-dimensionality of things too. And so that's another way I've used it in the past. And I've experimented with things, and things you like, you keep, and things you don't like, you modify a little bit or try something new. And so
Yeah.
that's how I approach the clay activities.
Yeah. What is your students' reaction to building with clay and learning with their hands? Is it go over well?
Well, at first, some of them are intimidated. I'm not an artist. It doesn't look pretty, but you know, um, and you can do it two different ways as an instructor. Some instructors prefer to have a document camera and build it as the students are building it, and I've done it that way. and then they can kind of see, and you can kind of hold up to the document camera, hey, this is what it should look like. Or you can kind of pre-build things and take pictures on your PowerPoint and then project it large on the screen and maybe, make some comments about it. And then that usually frees you up to walk around with the students and you can kind of encourage them. So, when I get to a student, some students are just crushing it and other students are struggling and can say, well, you need to bring that muscle a little further over here. Why don't you just stretch it over there? It looks pretty good. Just bring it over a little further. And they're usually open to that. And,
Yeah.
and then probably the hardest thing is they spend a lot of time making it and then they have to disassemble it at the end. So I've learned the hard way that you tell them on the front end that we're going to take these apart at the end of the hour so the next class can do the same thing. Some schools will
Yeah.
just have the skeleton or a model designated to the student, and the student uses it all semester, and they just keep building on it, and it's
Right.
kind of there for the
Right.
whole semester. But I tell them,
Right.
when they get done, I go, we have to take it apart, but go ahead and take some good selfies, and so they'll
Yeah.
take fun pictures and post them, and I encourage them to try to name their models if it's the human model, and they enjoy naming that too.
Yeah. Are there any tips you might pass along to teachers who are just beginning to perhaps bring this into their classroom? What things have you learned along the way that would help another teacher who's just starting to get into this?
Yeah, it's a little intimidating at first if you try to build all 700 or so muscles of the human body, which you don't want to do. So you want to pick something realistic goals and just start off on, maybe an easy build and trying to, there's the actual building part, and then there's a lot of the classroom management where, how do I set up my clay? Do I have set out, sometimes you can take you know, put clay one per table and put a bunch of clay there or per student, or you can have the clay, the materials on a counter, and then people walk by and grab them. So really thinking ahead how you want to kind of unpack this whole
Yeah.
process is useful. But I would say that probably the most important thing is getting some training, some professional development. And if you talk to any of the wonderful sales reps at Anatomy and Clay, they can easily point you to professional development workshops in your area, professional workshops that you can fly out to, drive out to, or online. There's some very high quality professional workshops,
Yeah.
and then you just jump in and try it. And the first time you kind of fumble through things, and they just get better and better and refine it, and then it sometimes I know early on a big mistake I had was being over ambitious with how I want to build 20 muscles in 40 minutes or something like that. And so sometimes it's good to scale it down to do a little bit lower number of muscles or structures and do them well, and the students are getting them versus pushing them too fast and they get frustrated and things
Right.
aren't
Mhm.
looking where they can be proud of. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Why is it important to teach human anatomy in today?
well, the most obvious thing is, I mean, all of my students, they're humans, and everybody wants to know about their own body, and they're going to be learning, and they're going to probably end up in the doctor's office sometime and get and have to make decisions about their body. So it's important for our own health and our own just you know or just quality of health reasons. But um, I know a lot of the students that are going into the medical field, they they need to know more than just book knowledge and diagrams. They want to be able to, hopefully, I had a friend who would study. He was a doctor, a physician, and he said during medical school, he studied in such a way he could just close his eyes and 3D manipulate the structures in his mind. And I think by doing the anatomy in clay, it just brings it, it just makes your mind makes it easy for your mind to organize all these structures.
Because it's hands-on, because it's 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, you're involving a lot of senses, you're seeing things, the clay is colorful, you're touching things, you're critically thinking about the positions, and it's involving a lot of different parts of your brain, so you're able to remember it better and you're able to access it better too.
Yep. And anatomy in clay, some people might kind of casually look at it and think it might not be or capable of being very detailed and very sophisticated, but have you found that it is capable of being a teaching tool for any system you want to look into?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can easily, for instance, with the upper extremity here, you could teach this in an elementary school and just do biceps, triceps, or something like that. But then,
Right.
you could knock it all the way up to PA school, students that are getting into, studying kinesiology, occupational therapy, and you can go very deep with, you know, being very precise with the origins and the insertions and the directionality of the muscle fibers on there and layering them properly. So you can go as pretty shallow, but you can go very deep if you want.
Yep. Yep.
Hmm.
Very good. Well, just as we're wrapping up, has your school year started yet?
Yes, it has. So just
Okay.
earlier this week, breaking into new freshmen and sophomores and such.
And how's it going?
It's going pretty good. They're pretty
Yeah.
eager students, ready to go. So I'm very excited for the semester.
Excellent. Have you broken out the anatomy in clay yet this year?
Oh, it's coming. So we just had lectures for my anatomy class, but it's coming. So
Yeah. Well, Jay Zimmer, thank you so much for your time today. And boy, we wish you well with this school year and all the future teaching and learning going on at Gardner-Webb.
okay. Yeah, and anybody that's interested and just kind of toying with the idea of anatomy and clay is, take the plunge, talk to a sales rep, go on the website, start talking to people, and just kind of ease into it what you feel comfortable with. And I think it'll end up being a very rewarding experience for yourself and for the students. Yeah. Thank you, Mark.